this is where it gets a little sticky because it's not all great information. It's not all accurate. It's not, it's a lot of it's kind of vague and general. But then if you try to get into specifics, like asking it, which stock funds, would I be better off using? You can get some wrong information. That really takes more context. It takes somebody knowing more about who you are and your financial situation and what your values are and those kind of things. So that's where you want to make sure to, when you get an answer, to question it, to challenge it, to, maybe learn a little something. Maybe you're only learning enough to research more, to ask more questions, to ask live people some questions, to check some things in some books. But the beauty of it is it gets you thinking. And usually what I did find was that it would bring up maybe some things that were alternatives to your, maybe you're asking a question, it brings up some alternative ideas. Some of these just get your wheels turning. They get your brain asking, that's something I didn't think of, let me learn more about that, or how could that possibly help me? That's something that when you ask the question or put in the prompt, you might not necessarily even be thinking about some of the things that, you'll get back in an answer. And I think that's where some of the value is. It broadens your perspective. It creates new avenues to kind of travel so that you can continue to learn more. So would I use it for detailed sort of quantitative information? Maybe, maybe not. I might try it, but then I'd be very skeptical with what I get back. I would not have it help me pick stocks, for example. I don't think that's a good use of it yet. I think it's grabbing information from everywhere, and some of it is, people's opinions, or, so it's a little tricky that way. I do think I was reading also Charlie Munger, who's the former Berkshire Hathaway guy, and he was asked about AI, and he basically said, I think old-fashioned intelligence works pretty well. And I think that's a simple statement, but a really important one, because so much of finance is about actually common sense and just using your brain and thinking, there's a certain level of knowledge you want to have, but also if it doesn't make sense to you, it's probably not a good idea for you. So I think you have to interject that throughout this process of using AI, and, use your own common sense. Also use your own values. So if something just doesn't appeal to you for a particular reason, that's okay. And you can always go back and ask for more ideas or hone your prompt a little bit so that you can get some different ideas. And what I'm finding is it is very fun, actually, to kind of use it for things. It will do simple things, like if you want a loan amortization, for example, it can do that pretty easily. Kind of nice, kind of don't need the fancy calculators anymore like we used to use. And so there are some fun things that you can do. I'm going to give you a few examples. There are different tools. So there are much more sophisticated ones and, less. So if you have a business, I did find some things that were financial planning and analysis tools. And Finance Weekly actually rated the top 10 and found that DataRails was number one, then Board, Anaplan, and Connect. I have not ever used any of those, but those are tools that can help you if you're a business owner to do a lot of financial analysis and planning. And so that was interesting to me. I think these are AI-supported tools, which makes them a little different from some of the tools that we've had in the past. And I think that's kind of the way these tools are going. There's a new personal finance app. A client of mine had just actually told me about it, and it was one I hadn't heard of, because oftentimes I recommend like Copilot and some other ones. And this was Monarch Money, which I hadn't heard of, but was just voted best overall app in 2024 by Wall Street Journal. And that's for your personal, pulling everything together, kind of like Mint used to do, where you can link all your bank accounts and your investment accounts and everything and get a very clear picture of what's going on in your financial life. But this one is AI assisted. So my guess is that they will all be going this way, but that adds something to the app that is a little different and probably allows you to learn a bit more. I'm going to dig into that one myself. But the person my client who was using it showed it to me and he was very happy with it. It was easy to set up and gave him a really nice overview of everything. And so those are interesting. Let me get into some of the prompts. If you're a little confused about what to say to ChatGPT, for example, I think everybody's talking about it, but you can really get better and better at these prompts, and you can teach ChatGPT to, kind of who you are. It starts to build this base of knowledge about the kinds of questions you've asked and what you're looking for, and that starts to help. So the more you use it, actually, the better it is. But when you talk to it about finance, here's an example of what I did. And then I want to tell you a little about the answers I got and kind of the quality of them. So, for example, I said hello. I always say hello and please. My kids make fun of me, but I think it's nice. So I said hello. Please act as a personal finance expert and explain to me how I can budget my spending simply and easily without tracking every expense. So for the person who knows they should be budgeting, they're kind of putting it off. They really don't want to go to the trouble of tracking every latte and every, gas receipt and what have you. And I'm not commenting on whether that's wise or not, but it's a reality. There's some people who are not going to budget to the penny, but still need a spending plan. So what do those folks do? So I asked the question, and ChatGPT said, absolutely, budgeting doesn't have to be overly complicated or time consuming. Here's a straightforward and practical approach to managing your spending without tracking every single expense. So it came up with some stuff. It talked about the 50-30-20 rule, a simple budgeting method that divides your after-tax income into 3 categories. And, 50% for essential expenses such as rent and mortgage, utilities, groceries, transportation, insurance, and minimum loan payments. Reasonable. 30% was on wants, non-essential expenses like dining out and entertainment. 20% on savings and debt repayment. Now, this is still pretty general and sort of just, basic advice that's out there, a rule of thumb to follow. But if you're not used to learning about finance, you're not reading anything about it, again, I think this was a good eye-opener. Should you follow what it tells you, that's where the intelligence, your own common sense comes in. Maybe that doesn't make sense for your particular situation. Maybe you're already in a place where your needs are actually at 70%. Okay, so, you don't want to just toss it. You want actually for that to help you get an awareness of, maybe my needs budget is a little higher than the average. Let me think about that. So again, you want to bring your own mind into this and start thinking. But if it gets you thinking, if it gets you in the game, if it's engaging you with money, that's a good help. That's a feature. Then it brought up things like automating your finances, using separate accounts, setting spending limits, reviewing regularly, using budget apps, focusing on big wins, and setting up an emergency fund. I think all of these, I couldn't, argue with any of them. They are, again, general information, but you can go from there and you can learn more, and you can, put these topics into Google, or you can go to a book that you have. And, these are good things to start learning from. I asked another question. I thought, I wonder if ChatGPT can help me with getting a job. And so let me go back to I asked it. Let's see, where is it? I asked it a lot of questions today. I said, if I want to earn $150,000 per year and I have a liberal arts degree, can you act as a career counselor and provide me with 10 options for careers that might hire me with this degree that earn that much money in 5 years? This one, I thought it didn't do as good a job. Maybe it was my prompt. I could put that prompt in with a few more details and specifics and see what came back. But I got a very weird list, I thought. I got management consultant, started as a consultant at a major firm like McKinsey. Well, honestly, I mean, maybe you'll be able to do that if you're just a completely standout student from an excellent school with a liberal arts degree, maybe. Marketing manager, sales manager, public relations manager, human resources manager. And it gave you a little path. So project manager, start in entry-level project coordination roles and work up to project manager or senior project manager positions. Personally, I think you probably need a little more project manager, skills. It did give me the skills, though. For each one, it gave you a little path and some skills. So organizational skills, leadership, time management, problem solving. Again, pretty general, pretty vague. But then I asked it for steps to achieve the salary goal. Again, sort of general. Acquire relevant skills, gain experience networking, seek mentorship, continuous learning. It wasn't the best. And again, that could have been the prompt, but I think that question is just actually a very hard question for it to answer well. So that's where I think I would say, okay, there were some interesting parts, and you could still take this as a framework. I think sometimes all it gives you, instead of great information, is a framework. Like if you want to do your own research, why don't I look into these different things? So it's kind of a start. It's more of a start than an outcome that you're getting from it. Just like if you're asking it to help you write a blog, which I haven't found super great yet, but you can ask it, give it details, ask it to help you write a blog on such and such and, in this many words and give it as many specifics as possible. And you will, every time, I think, have to work on that blog and make it more interesting, make it sound like you, tweak it, enhance the content a bit. So this is similar. I also asked it, please act as a real estate expert and tell me what skills are necessary to be most successful in real estate and what types of courses could help me develop those skills. This one, I got a lot of skills that you could pretty much predict: problem solving, organizational skills, financial acumen, customer service. Okay, could have guessed that probably. What I liked about it, though, was they did give me specific courses. So they gave me specific courses and where to find them. For example, real estate negotiation skills on Udemy, marketing sales skills in real estate, LinkedIn Learning. So, it actually found where these skills were and gave me names. And that to me is a time saver. So I thought, well, that's kind of cool. So let's see what else. I went back to personal finance and asked if I wanted to organize my financial data and information, what are the best resources to help me do that in an efficient and easy way so I can find what I need quickly when I need it? So organizing financial data is a part of my money dating course that I teach. So I really wanted to see what it had to say here. And it says, organizing your financial data and information efficiently requires a combination of tools and strategies. Here are some of the best resources and methods to help you do this. So tools for organizing financial data. And then it gave me ideas for software like Quicken and Mint, and you need a budget. Now, it did not give me the ones that I had just found in my previous research were the, most recommended. I mean, Quicken, we all know about. But there were other apps. So I wouldn't say this, this is not contradictory, but it doesn't align with the research I'd already done on what are the best apps. Maybe, again, you could come back, you could go back to this, and you could ask just a question on personal finance software, more detailed, specific question with, and ask it for more than 3. It gave me 3. There are spreadsheets, there's document management systems it gave me like Google Drive and Dropbox and Evernote. Receipt and document scanning apps. That was kind of interesting. That's not something that I knew about right off the top of my head. Some other budgeting apps. And it gave me some strategies for efficient organization. Now, some of them were pretty normal, like files, name them, label them, things like that. So even though that's not like, earth-shattering information, totally obvious, just because something's obvious doesn't mean we're doing it. And so sometimes I thought one of the best things it said was to reconcile monthly and weekly review. There was a section on regular maintenance, weekly review. Spend a few minutes each week updating your financial records and filing new documents. Again, just a reminder, we get busy and we're not paying that much attention to our money, which is the whole idea behind dating your money. A little bit every week, 1 hour, something, sit down and handle things, take care of things, and you will make so much progress just doing that on a consistent weekly basis. And so I did kind of love the way it had that reminder in there. So even if you kind of know you should be doing that, this is yet another reminder that that is part of how you stay organized. It gave a few examples of financial dashboards that are helpful. Personal Capital is one I like, that they listed that. Tiller Money is one I'd never heard of. So no question, there are things to learn. And then they had some online courses you could take, again, telling you where the course was. And then they had some books, and I did like the books they chose. So you want to learn more? They had Your Money or Your Life, which is a great book on money by Vicki Robin and Joe Dominguez. It's a classic. It's older, and it's really good. They had another Dave Ramsey one, and then they had an I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi, and that is another really good one. So agreed with the books and loved the fact that it even brought up books. So it goes a little further than just answering the question. And that's what I like. That's what I did get out of it. A lot of the answers to the questions were kind of just okay, but the extra stuff it threw in got you thinking in different ways. And I think that's where it was helpful. So this is, it is good if you want to ask financial. Oh, I think this was, I'm going to read you one more prompt that I did. Otherwise, I'll bore you to death if I keep doing this. So if I have $100,000 to invest and you are my investment advisor, please tell me what to do. I have $20,000 in credit card debt and a mortgage of $300,000 on my home and no emergency fund. Should I invest it all in S&P funds? So this was where I thought it was kind of fun to create a question. And so you can just come up with whatever scenarios you have. And I did think it answered pretty well. It probably answered in the way a lot of personal finance people would answer, in my opinion. So it said, before making any investment decisions, it's important to consider your overall financial situation, including debt, savings, and investment goals. Given your circumstances, here are some of the steps you might consider. Pay off high interest debt. So it did address that very quickly, said credit card debt typically carries high interest rates, often much higher than you can earn through investments. Paying off this debt should be a priority. Use $20,000 to pay off your credit card debt. Then it said establish an emergency fund. An emergency fund is essential for financial security. It provides a buffer against unexpected expenses and reduces the need to rely on credit cards in emergencies. The action: allocate 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses for your emergency fund. If we assume monthly expenses of $3,000, aim for $9,000 to $18,000. Good advice. Evaluate mortgage situation. It did say while mortgage interest rates are generally lower than credit card rates, it is still good to evaluate if paying down some of your mortgage makes sense. However, this step can be less urgent if your mortgage interest rate is relatively low. Good job, ChatGPT. Action: consider putting some money toward your mortgage principal, but this may not be the top priority if your rate is low. Kind of disagreed with this one in the sense that I would have said, yeah, just frankly ignore this if your rate is low, but then I am not everybody. And so I think, this is advice that some people would advise you to pay down some of your principal. So this is where, again, your own intelligence comes through, or other trusted people would be good to consult on this one. Then it said invest the remaining amount. Once high interest debt is paid off and emergency fund established, you can think about investing the remaining funds. It talked about investing in S&P 500 index funds, which is what I asked it. And it said it can be a long-term strategy, good long-term strategy due to their historical performance and diversification across 500 large U.S. companies. So it did give you a little bit of information on what the S&P 500 is. And then it broke down everything. And it said, assuming you allocate $15,000 for your emergency fund, you would have pay off credit card debt, $20,000, emergency fund, $15,000, total spent so far, $35,000, remaining to invest, $65,000. So it did a little math for me, gave me a little investment strategy. Now, it did not tell me specifically where or how to invest. We're just talking about general S&P 500 index funds. And then it's up to you to figure out, how you're going to do that and where. But it was not bad advice. Not bad at all, actually. Now, would I trust it because it came from ChatGPT? No. I would take it into consideration and I would ask around. I would think about it. I would see what other factors are in my life that I actually did not ask. And if some of those would play into the decision making, you could come back and go, okay, with all that said, this is, what I'm thinking of doing, but I have this, how does that factor into it? So you can continue to talk to it. Another question, I said I wasn't going to do this. If you're my financial expert and I have 8 credit cards, would you advise me to close the ones I don't use? Came back with a pretty decent answer on that too, talking about the credit impact of closing credit cards, how maybe, if you're a person who can't control yourself, maybe you should just keep yourself from using it, but here are the impacts. So I think it was a fun exercise to do this. And I think that it can enlighten you. It can enhance your knowledge in the sense that you will be more equipped to ask more questions. And that's really how we learn. And so you can ask questions of yourself. You can ask questions of others, gets you thinking, gets you looking at things. Maybe you don't, maybe you've forgotten what your mortgage rate is and you are going to go back and check it. All of it is just making you realize that, either more than you thought, or, realize what you still need to know, realize where you need to learn more. So, and realize what you're paying attention to and what you're not. It always comes down with me to that relationship with money. How are you handling it? How much attention are you paying to your money? And this gives you some guidelines and maybe some ideas of what you could be looking at more often or differently. So that is our show today. I hope you're inspired a little bit as I've been getting to check out AI and see how it might help you in your financial life, in helping you with careers. I actually just used it to help someone do a better LinkedIn profile. I did a lot of work on what I got some information. I actually fed ChatGPT several resumes for this person and some other information we had, and it did pretty well, I have to say. There was a lot of editing, but again, this person had a very long career. There was a lot of information. Just condensing the information was a huge task. So, and that can be the case for your financial information too. So get creative. That's really the fun of it, is getting creative and figuring out interesting questions that you want an answer to, but you haven't taken the time to ask. You haven't really bothered. Now, if you get into specific legal matters, if you're asking questions, about your trust, about your estate, about it, I would absolutely not rely on ChatGPT. I would rely on it just to give you, like I said, some additional ideas of questions to ask, and then go ask an attorney or somebody who really knows this world. So, all right. But I do think that this helps you, again, create a better relationship with your money, because you're just connecting with financial concepts. You're connecting with your own financial situation, and it's making you think about what you would like, what you'd be willing to do, not willing to do. It's all very important for awareness of yourself and your relationship, where it's at, where you'd like it to be. So thanks again for listening, and you will find the Money and You Show on all the podcast platforms and the Limit Free Life YouTube channel and Roku. And I would love for you to share this with your friends. Get us a few more subscribers. If you're interested in rating or reviewing the show, that would be amazing. And we'll see you next week.